Hi folks, so for question 6, they give us a frequency table. So what this table means anyway is that all students in fourth year took part in a long jump. So the first column here gives us that between 200 and 250 and the number of students is 10. So what it means is that 10 students jumped between 200 and 250 centimeters. So we don't know exactly what each of those 10 students jumped. I mean, any one of those students could have jumped anything between 200 and 250. So they could have jumped 205 or 209, or they could have jumped 249 centimeters. We don't actually know. So 10 students jumped between 200 and 250. 15 students then jumped between 250 and 300 centimeters, and then so on. So you'll see down at the end then there's 3 who jumped between 450 and 500 centimeters. So they obviously jumped the most, so they did the best. So in total, how many students took part in the competition? So all we need to do is we need to do 10. We need to just add up all the numbers. So 10 plus 15 plus 25 plus 32 plus 10 plus 3. And then if you put all those in your calculator, you should get 95. So 95 students. Part B then, what is the modal group of the frequency table? So modal, you should know, sounds like mode, and that's basically what they're asking us here. They're asking us for which group was the most common. So which group happened the most, kind of, or in this case, it'll be which of the results happened the most. So was it 200 to 250? Did the most students jump jump between those, or did the most amount of students jump between 250 and 300, or 300 to 350, 350 to 400, 450, 400 to 450, or 450 to 500? So which of those did the most students jump in? And you can see then what you need to look for here is you need to look for the one that has the highest frequency, or in this case, the highest number of students. So you can see here that 32 students jumped between 350 and 400. So 350 to 400 is your answer. Part C, to qualify for the final, a student must jump 415 centimeters or more. What is the least number of students who could have qualified for the final? So we're looking down at the end here, from 400 up to 500. So what is the least number of students who could have qualified for the final? So these 3 students, well, they have to have qualified for the final because they all jumped above 450. They jumped from 450 to 500, something in there. So those 3 students, they have to be in it. So even though it says least number, we have to include those 3. These 10 though, all we know about these 10 here is that they jumped somewhere between 400 and 450. So for all we know, all of those could have jumped 401, or they could have all jumped between 400 and 407 or something like that. Now they could also have all jumped above 440, for example, but we don't know. So because it says what is the least number of students who could have qualified, means that we're going to leave these out here because they might not have. Therefore, if we're looking at the least number, it's just going to be the 3. It's just going to be the 3 that are between 450 and 500. So our answer here is 3. And then what is the greatest number? So it's kind of the opposite of the first part. What's the greatest number of students who could have qualified for the final? Well, again, the 3 students there who jumped between 450 to 500, they have to be in the final anyway because they jumped way above the 415. So in this case, then, for the greatest number possible, we have to include the 10 because, again, we don't know what those 10 jumped. They could have jumped 401, or some of them are, they could have all jumped above 440 or above 430. So we have to include those these time, and we need to assume that they all jumped above 415 in order to get the greatest number who could have qualified. So We have to add on those 10 here. So the answer is going to be 13. Right, so part D then asks us to draw a histogram to represent the data from the frequency table. So if I can just put over the frequency table, make it a bit easier. Right, so all we need to do is we need to draw a bar up then in between um, each of the groups. So from 200 to 250, there was 10. So we just need to draw a bar up to 10. So in the exam, you should be using a ruler and doing this as neat as possible, making it really clear, because there'll be marks lost for if you go a little bit above or below, and definitely if you don't use a ruler, you lose marks, and they're easy enough marks to get if you're careful about it. So just spend a little bit of time and be as neat as possible. So between 250 and 300, then there's 15. So we just draw the bar up to 15 like that. And then between 300 and 350, there's 25. So we go up to 25. Between 350 and 400, there's 32. So you need to go up and you need to be careful here and just measure properly in between. So try to get as close to where 32 would be as possible. So 400 to 450, there's 10. So we're only going up to 10 here. And then the last one, we're only going up to 3. So 3 then has to be in here. It has to be halfway between 0 and 5. So your last bar will be here. Obviously, I didn't draw that very neatly. So you'll have to be a lot more careful in an exam, neater than I was there. So the last part of this question then asks us, so it's about the median. The median distance jumped was 331 centimeters. Explain what this means in terms of how far students jumped in the long jump competition. Think about it. If you had all of the distances that each of the students had written out in a big long list, the median would be the one that's in the middle. So median means middle. So therefore, if you think about it then, uh, half of the students would have jumped less than the median, and then the other half of the students would have jumped more. So you can say something along those lines. So half of students jumped less than 331, and then half of the students jumped more. So I should put in the units here as well, so centimeters. So half of the students jumped less than 331 centimeters, and then half of them jumped more than 331 centimeters.